Hello and welcome to this special edition of Nightly Scroll. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. We've got a big show for you tonight on deck. I've got Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton here. He wants to unseat Senator John Cornyn. Lots to discuss with him. Plus, Target is in hot water. They've got everyone boycotting them left, right, and center. But they think teaming up with Reverend Al Sharpton will do the trick this time. Okay. Whatever. Then I've got a horrible thing for society, and it's the end of this constitutional republic as we know it. Give me a frickin' break. I played a clip earlier this week on the show of an NBC foreign correspondent. He joined some MSNBC show, and he was peddling the lie that the Trump administration can just essentially round up anyone they want and deport them to El Salvador or anywhere their hearts desire, which we, of course, know is not true. Now, Senator Elizabeth Warren is also perpetuating that same lie that they can just disappear anyone. Watch this.
We do not disappear people in the United States because here's the thing. If they can disappear Mr. Abrego Garcia, then they can disappear you. It's about disappearing people, but it's also about obeying court orders. But now what we've got is truly a man who threatens it, a spineless bunch of Republicans in the House and Senate who help it along. And the American people saying, wait a minute, I think this is the moment we're going to have to start fighting back for our country.
Okay, they think that this is some constitutional crisis. I'm not worried about being deported. Are you in the chat? Anyone in the live chat, are you worried about being deported? You heard her. Anyone. They could just deport anyone to El Salvador. They could just make them disappear. Are you afraid of being disappeared? I'm not. But that's because you and I were not illegal immigrants. We are not gang members. We are just normal law-abiding citizens, so we have nothing to worry about, of course. But even worse, the left has turned Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia into the next George Floyd. He is the political martyr pawn of the week. The inconvenient truths about their precious Maryland father, as they like to call him, who was wrongly deported, are now coming out that he is indeed an illegal immigrant. His partner, his wife, ordered a temporary order of protection against Garcia for domestic abuse, punching and scratching her eye until she bled. And then a judge in 2019 wanted to protect him, not send him back to his home country of El Salvador because he could be a target of gang violence there. Well, why would that be? Why would he be a target more so than anyone else? Well, police reports confirm that he has affiliations with the MS-13 gang. All right. So what is the left doing about this now? Well, yesterday we saw the total embarrassing walk of shame or trip of shame, I like to call it. Senator Chris Van Hollen went to that notorious prison in El Salvador to do a wellness check on that Maryland father they claim to care for so much. Listen to this.
The Supreme Court, 9-0, has told the Trump administration they must facilitate his return home. They've refused to do it. So I called upon the government of El Salvador to do it unless they can provide evidence that he's been involved in MS-13. They said they had no evidence. So this is not about MS-13. I know President Trump wants to make this about gang violence. I have been fighting MS-13 probably longer than Donald Trump even knew about MS-13. I care about every victim of crime. That's why we have a court system to hold people accountable when they commit crimes, to make sure that they get the punishment they deserve. We also have a court system to make sure that people who have not committed crimes or not been convicted of crimes are not disappeared out of the United States and sent to a notorious prison in El Salvador.
There he is, peddling that lie again. He's been disappeared out of the country, just a regular old Maryland dad. I mean, are you believing any of this in the chat? I don't think you would be. Senate Minority Whip Dick Durbin, he responded to that video on X. He wrote this: "Thank you, Chris, for your tireless efforts to speak truth to power in El Salvador. why don't you guys speak truth to power in the good old US of A? Why don't you start there? And maybe you should care about your other constituents. I searched Senator Van Hollen's X feed for any posts about 2 Maryland citizens who were brutally raped and murdered by illegal immigrants. Kayla Hamilton, she was raped by an MS-13 gang member in his home state of Maryland. And of course, Rachel Morin, same thing, brutally raped and murdered by an illegal immigrant. Nothing turned up. He did not say one thing about those Maryland constituents, but he'll go to El Salvador to go check up on the criminal, the gang member. Okay, make it make sense. So the White House, they posted this absolutely savage post on X. They said, hey, and they tagged Senator Chris Van Hollen. We sent you a collab request on Instagram to help tell your constituent Rachel Morin's story, raped and murdered by an MS-13 alien from El Salvador in your state. Just tap accept. Do we think that this post is going to show up on Senator Van Hollen's Instagram page anytime soon? I certainly won't hold my breath. So while liberals in Congress and the media cry over an illegal immigrant, domestic abuser with gang affiliations not living on American soil anymore, the American people, they don't really care too much about those details. They don't care too much about splitting those hairs. The majority of them want all illegal immigrants deported. They even admitted it on CNN. Watch.
Deport all undocumented immigrants. Voters favoring the government trying to deport all 11 million of them. Back in 2016, just 38% of voters wanted the government to try to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. Compared to where we are in 2025, 56%, the majority. The American people have come a long way on this issue, much closer to Donald Trump, and I think that's a big part of the reason why Americans are increasingly saying the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy, and why Donald Trump's net approval rating on that issue is in the positive.
I just think it's funny because the left will try to say that Trump supporters are regretting their vote, and then they have to report on the actual facts and statistics and the polling numbers that say the exact opposite, that they do overwhelmingly support President Trump's efforts to deport gang members and all illegal immigrants. And, you know, my next guest, he is vying to work with some of these fools in the Senate who seem to care more about virtue signaling and pushing their own agenda rather than listening to their constituents. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is vying for Senator John Cornyn's seat in 2026, and he joins me now. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
I want to get your take first on this Maryland dad, stand-up guy, wrongly deported. This is, of course, how the left is painting him. But American citizens, I mean, they don't want guys like this around.
Look, I understand the desire to get publicity. It just seems like they chose a bad case. I mean, you pick an MS-13, even though they're arguing he's not, he's still illegal. And this idea that somehow people are going to disappear, we're talking about people who are not supposed to be here. And as the statistics show, as the polling shows, American people don't want these people here, and particularly if they're gang members. And who do you believe? Do you believe the Department of Justice? Do you believe the FBI on this? Do you believe Donald Trump, or do you believe this senator who's making a play for publicity?
Yeah, it's a really poor play for publicity. That's like the worst walk of shame I've ever seen in my life. He went down to the prison in El Salvador, met with the president. President says, no, you can't meet with this guy, Abrego Garcia. So then he just had to make this trip back, and it's like, all for what?
Yeah, and I saw the video of him in the car. It's clear this is just a PR show. He doesn't care what the answer is. And if he had absolute proof that the guy had committed many crimes, I don't think that the senator would care. I think he wants publicity, and he's using this guy as part of his show, part of his prop.
Yeah, certainly the liberal media is trying to memory hole all of these inconvenient truths that his wife wanted to, you know, she put a temporary protection order on him because of domestic violence. And, you know, of course, they're just not going to cover any of these things. But Judge Boasberg, this activist judge who has been, you know, just ruining the Trump administration's deportation efforts at any turn that he can, he wants to now hold the Trump administration in contempt of court for not returning those flights to that prison when he asked, because he wanted to return them. The Trump administration went through with it. Of course, the Supreme Court upheld the Trump administration's right to use the Alien Enemies Act. But now, I mean, what are we going to do about these activist judges? Is there anything that the Trump administration can do?
Look, yeah, they can say no to this judge. Unfortunately, they did. This is exactly what the founders were afraid of. They always viewed the judiciary as the weaker branch of government. They never envisioned that they would step into the role of legislature or in the executive branch. This judge is stepping into the shoes of the president, making decisions that only he is authorized to make. And so the first way to handle it is exactly what the president did, is just say, no, I'm going to do my job. And I'm not going to let some federal judge that thinks he's running my office do it. Second, I think we need to look at reining in some of this ability to get these nationwide injunctions, unless there is an absolute need for one, and it's absolutely going to affect the entire country. They shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, I want to move now to this measles outbreak that's happening. A lot of this is concentrated in Texas, in your state, and there are 7 current outbreaks, about more than 700 cases. And, there were 16 outbreaks during President Biden's presidency. We didn't hear about that. The liberal media, they didn't want to report on that. I guess it was just an inconvenient truth for them. Just another one of those inconvenient truths. Now they get to blame RFK Jr. because, of course, he fell out of the good graces of the Democrats when he teamed up with President Trump. But it seems like he doesn't, whatever RFK Jr. does, he gets the short end of the stick. It's kind of like damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. If he pushes the vaccine, people get pissed off at him. And then if he doesn't push the vaccine, same thing. So what do you think is the best course of action here to get this under control?
First of all, I trust RFK a lot. He's done an amazing job already, and he's spoken out on these issues. He's been very, I think, smart in looking at the facts. And look, some of these vaccines are effective and some of them work and some of them don't. And I think he's spent a lot of time understanding these issues. And I have a lot of respect for his courage, standing up to the established, standing up to his own party, and standing up to some of these big corporations that are trying to push vaccines on us that actually don't work. For instance, Pfizer and their COVID vaccine, we know that it didn't do what they said it did. And
Right.
Fortunately, he spoke out on it.
Yeah. It's curious. I mean, I'm not going to ask you to speculate here. I'll do that. But I think there's a curious connection between the fact that all of these outbreaks started, or mostly during the Biden administration. I think we had a lot of unvetted people coming across the border. A lot of these measles outbreaks are happening where a lot of these undocumented migrants ended up. And I think there are a lot of unvaccinated communities in Texas, the Mennonite communities, and RFK Jr. has gone there and spoken with those families, and he's urged people to get vaccinated. But these unvaccinated communities, they weren't contracting measles before there was this overflow of people coming across the border that are completely unvetted. We don't know where they're from. I just find that curious.
I think you make a very good point, and it's one that I have not heard, oddly, in the mainstream media or really anywhere else. You're the first person I've heard say that. But that makes a lot of sense. We've had millions, 10, 15 million people cross the border, mostly unvaccinated. And how surprising would it be if some of them were part of the problem and spreading a measles epidemic? And not surprised.
Yeah. I actually Googled, I was curious. I mean, how do measles outbreaks occur? How does this spread? Even on the CDC's website, they will say over the border. They'll say that it is spread across borders. So I don't know. I'm putting 2 and 2 together, but maybe RFK Jr. can look into that. I want to talk about your 2026 aspirations. You want to unseat Senator John Cornyn. Why?
Look, he's had 23 years. He's going on 24 years as a U.S. Senator. He's not been effective. He's not represented the people of Texas well. He's held positions that we disdain and that the Republican primaries particularly disdain. And he hasn't done anything that really represents the people of Texas in a good way. And so after 23 years, there's not much that he has to say about what he's done. And so I think it's time for a change. He's had long enough. He's been there for, as I said, almost 24 years, and it's just time for a change. Yeah.
And what is the most concerning thing about his voting record, in your opinion?
Well, there's a couple of things. Well, the main thing is his passing of the gun restrictions for the whole United States. And this is something that Biden was pushing. He helped Joe Biden get it passed. He was congratulated by Joe Biden. On the other hand, President Trump criticized him as a rhino for passing these gun restrictions that also enabled the ATF to put out more regulations restricting gun ownership. So in Texas, as you might imagine, restricting gun ownership is not a very popular thing.
Right.
As a matter of fact, he went to the state convention 3 years ago and got booed for 30 straight minutes, loudly booed for doing that. He's also held positions on amnesty. He's insinuated that that's appropriate. He's also said many times he doesn't want a border wall, and he's fought that idea, even though Trump was for it. And he's also been very critical of President Trump's running in 2016 and 2024. So this is a guy that does not hold our values, and yet, and maybe he'd be a great, Republican representative or senator from, Vermont, but not from Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to talk to you about these red flag laws. And I can't ask you that without bringing up the horrific shooting today at Florida State University. We're seeing updates now that this was potentially the sheriff deputy's son who had access to her firearms. It's horrific. There are deaths reported, injuries reported. We don't want to see this ever. And on the topic of red flag laws, I don't think that there's any gun law that can stop this. I think most Republicans are on the same page as this. I don't know how to get Democrats on that same page.
It makes no sense. If somebody that is going to not follow laws about murdering people, and somehow if we have a gun law in place, they're going to follow that, it makes absolutely no sense. That's why it's one of the most ludicrous arguments I've ever heard, that if we have gun laws, these people that are willing to kill people will go, well, there's a gun law, so
Right.
now I'm not going to kill somebody. It doesn't make any sense. So we have to do other things, and there's going to be no perfect result, but there are other things we can do other than restricting the gun ownership rights of lawful people who are not committing crimes.
Yeah, there's a bill in Tennessee that has been stalled now. So it's been stalled until 2026. But they want to bar giving guns to certain mental health patients. And I think that this is an interesting angle because the common denominator between all school shootings, mass shootings, the person who is doing this is mentally ill. No one in their right mind is going into a grocery store or a nightclub or a school and shooting people to death. And like you said, this is already illegal. So, I mean, what more can we pass to prevent this? And I'll even say, I think I respect the fact that they're taking the mental health route to this. But at the same time, I mean, what they're saying, and they stalled this because there's a lot of gray area. What they want to do is prevent people who have gotten inpatient mental treatment. They want to prevent those people from getting a gun or getting their hands on a firearm for 5 years. And a lot of these people that commit these horrific crimes, they're not getting treatment for their mental health.
Yeah, I mean, it's a slippery slope, and there's really no way to necessarily identify exactly who's going to do it. So once you start targeting different groups, whether it's people that are under 21 or whatever your pick, you are going to eliminate people who are law-abiding citizens who might want to have a weapon to protect themselves. And there's always a chance that they'll be harmed because they weren't able to defend themselves. So, we're not omnipotent. All we can do is try to identify when we see a problem, to try to deal with it and try to stop it, and have people prepared, have law enforcement prepared, have schools prepared, have individual citizens prepared, because at some time bad things are going to happen, and we have to deal with it when it does.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was talking about this with my producers just before you hopped on here. And I said, what constitutes inpatient care? I mean, what if we have a veteran who has received care for PTSD or depression and he was medicated, he was prescribed something? Are we not going to allow veterans to have a firearm for self-defense? I mean, to your point, it's just an extremely slippery slope. And I think the best course of action is just to put armed guards and police officers at every school entry point. We could put them at grocery stores, have armed security. I think the more security, the less criminals can get into these places.
Look, they've been making these arguments forever. And you'll notice that the places that have the most restrictive gun laws tend to have the highest crime, because the criminals know, hey, we're safe. The places that have open carry or concealed carry, those people are not known. I mean, there might be a few examples. I don't know of any examples of people that do those programs that actually have committed crimes. And so it seems to me that we have to deal with the problem, like you just said. We have to have armed people at schools and other places, or you can train administrators or teachers in how to use a firearm so that you have, if a first responder can't get there in time, you have people trained right there. Right. We just need to prepare for the inevitable. It's going to happen no matter how many laws you have. There are bad people out there who are not going to follow law, and they're going to try to kill people.
Yeah. Well, Senator Cornyn has called you a con man, a fraud. I mean, I just want to point out that people have also called President Trump those things, and it worked out for him. So what do you say to these nicknames and name calling?
The fact that he, as an incumbent senator, has to go immediately to the names tells you where he's at. He's been there for, like I said, a long time. He doesn't have anything to talk about. He doesn't have any notoriety for doing good things. He's got notoriety for passing gun laws and for being against border security and giving money to the Ukraine instead of giving money to the border and to Texas, to his own citizens. So when you start off your first day after I get in calling me a fraud, and by the way, when he did that, he was talking about how supportive he's been of Trump. And he had this little spiel about how supportive, and I'm like, talk about fraud, talk about con man. Here it is. He goes from talking about his support of Trump when we all know he's got documented statements criticizing Trump as an albatross around our neck in 2016, and then saying in 2024, I do not support President Trump. We need to go a different direction. And by the way, he insinuated that he was a criminal before. This is a guy that was a Supreme Court judge. I've always thought judges should presume innocence instead of guilt. And he presumed guilt instead of innocence, as he has with me. This is a guy that needs to go home.
Yeah, you would think. So obviously you're the MAGA candidate. He's the Rhino candidate. Do you think you'll get President Trump's support behind you? When do you think he'll make an endorsement?
He typically, I've watched him. He waits a lot. He usually waits to see how things are going, which I don't blame him. I would do the same thing. I've been supportive of him from the beginning, from 2016 on. I worked with him a lot when he was president in some very significant ways. And by the way, when things were not going so well for him, when he was going through all of these legal battles, when he announced that he was running for president at Mar-a-Lago, who showed up? Congressman Troy Nehls and me. We were the only two elected officials there. By the way, this is when DeSantis was looking strong. That loyalty was there because I truly believed that he was the best choice. And I also think Ron DeSantis is great. He was a great governor, but I felt like Donald Trump was the right man for the job now, and DeSantis can be later.
All right. Well, we've got a lot of work to do before 2026. Hopefully I talk to you before then. Attorney General Ken Paxton, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me on. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. All right. Keeping in the vein of Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, she is in hot water. Okay. She is in hot water. There is an FEC investigation into some, very concerning campaign funds through Act Blue. And this is the headline here, headline 7. It says, there's this FEC complaint over Act Blue, and the Coolidge-Reagan Foundation, they were the ones that filed this Federal Election Commission investigation into Crockett. The 8-page complaint says that Crockett's campaign accepted a total of $610 from 56 separate transactions in 2023 and 2024. It's from the same 73-year-old retiree who was totally unaware of the donations. They asked his wife. His wife was totally unaware of the transactions. You wouldn't donate to the same candidate 56 times. If you're going to donate $610, 56 times, I don't think anyone is that amped and that jazzed about Jasmine Crockett to get her in there. So the complaint says that Act Blue has been providing thousands of dollars of contributions to Democrat candidates, not just her, but in the names of unsuspecting elderly people in order to allow people in Congress like Crockett to shield the true source of the funds. This would mean they could potentially accept excessive or otherwise illegal contributions. So they are looking into this. It's very curious. Act Blue. It just seems like Democrats are really, really good at ripping you off and using people's names and basically money laundering in order to win. So hopefully they get to the bottom of that. And I don't know if you all remember Adam Kinzinger, former Congressman Adam Kinzinger. I totally forgot about him, but he was on that January 6th committee trying to get Trump And here he is. He took to social media. He posted this video talking about how we need to really get up there, get in the streets, and confront our congressmen and women. Watch this.
Listen, we are in unbelievably uncharted territory here. And, we're approaching the point where, honestly, it's like we're all going to have to take to the streets or something. I don't think it's time to, general strike and everybody be on the streets yet, but I think we need to think in terms of that. Like, what happens if truly, we find out that Donald Trump doesn't care about anything about the Constitution, and there is nobody in Washington willing to hold him accountable. So, look, that fear you feel right now, it's real. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that, just don't worry about it. It's all going to be fine. What I'm trying to say now is we have to start thinking through what are the steps here. Right now, it's confronting members of the House and Senate, but of the House in these town hall meetings. And if they're not doing town hall meetings, compel them to. Don't cross the line and confront them, in a restaurant when they're eating or whatever. That actually backfires all the time, right? That's what I'm coming to realize, is that nobody is coming to save us. It is us. And so we have to decide what we're going to do. God bless you guys.
God bless. No one's coming to save us, says crying Adam Kinzinger. What was he crying for again? Oh, this was during the January 6th hearings. Yeah, what? Oh my gosh, can we pull up the chat? People are making fun of him. This guy's a straight effing moron, someone says. Don't cry in their food. Accountability should be real. Oh my gosh. What a joke. Nobody listens to crybaby Adam Kinzinger. Yeah. And it's just so funny. He's it doesn't really work. He's definitely confront your lawmakers, but don't actually get up in their face while they're at restaurants and stuff. That actually usually backfires on us. Yeah, no kidding. That's harassment. It's harassment, and you might be inciting violence. I don't know why the left is so hell-bent on pushing their followers and their voters to protest and riot and get up in their faces and go in the streets. Nobody on the right does this. It's only a leftist phenomenon. They're obsessed with blaming us for inciting violence, i.e. January 6th. But it just seems like a total projection to me. And speaking of political violence on the rise, this is a crazy story out of Washington State. Of course, the Pacific Northwest is known for their leftist lunacy. This is where Antifa, they all gather and they organize. They all got their blue hair and their green hair and their purple hair. They all have got septum piercings and whatever else. But over at Washington State University, a PhD student instructor, Patrick Mahoney, and a Washington State University employee, Gerald Hoff, attacked a student. They attacked an engineering student named Jay Sani. Does anyone in the chat want to guess why they attacked him? And when I say attack, I mean this is a brutal beatdown in the streets. Anyone want to guess maybe what his political leanings are? This is what Jussie Smollett wished happened to him. But Jay Sani was wearing a red Trump hat. It was a Trump 2024 campaign hat. And he was totally beaten up for it. Watch this.
After a long day at work, the WSU junior says he got ambushed and jumped by Patrick Mahoney and Gerald Hoff.
Patrick, ripped the hat out of my head.
For wearing this bright red Trump cap.
He said to me, "Go get it, bitch," or punched me a bunch of times on the back.
Sani says they unleashed a vicious beatdown, all caught on surveillance cameras right in front of the Coug, a popular campus bar packed with students.
Gerald also kicked me also a bunch of times too. Patrick, he grabbed my chest, I slammed it on the concrete as I was falling.
He tried to defend himself.
So I had to go throw my food at his face.
But Sani says 2 against 1 was just unfair.
And I was like, what the hell just happened?
And the melee left him with multiple scrapes and bruises.
Because of this, yeah.
I can't believe this is still happening. Can you? I mean, the left is so angry and they're so violent. I don't understand. I mean, I've never seen anyone in a Biden-Harris hat or a Harris-Walz hat. I've never seen one in my life. But if I did, I would just walk on by and mind my own freaking business. I don't understand. Like, you can't coexist with people. Aren't these the people with the coexist stickers on their Subarus in the Pacific Northwest? I mean, they can't coexist with anyone who thinks differently than them. So someone walks by you with a Trump 2024 campaign hat. Yeah, look at this. This camo hat. This was a conservative cultural appropriation. That's what I like to call it. Harris and Walz, they put their name on a camo hat thinking that it would just get all of the conservatives to get on board and buy their hat. No. No one pushes merch like the Don, okay? So I can't wrap my head around seeing someone wearing a political hat or a shirt or anything. Like, when I see a Harris or Harris-Walz or Biden-Harris sticker on a car or something, I'm like, they're a liberal. And then I don't think about them for the rest of the day. What would possess you to physically harm someone? They're all mentally deranged, totally deranged. And by the way, this was a Washington State University employee, a PhD student, teacher, and an employee who ganged up on a student, a junior. Could you imagine paying? You're paying your son's way through engineering school, and he gets 2-on-1 beaten down by employees of the school? The lawsuit, I couldn't even tell you how fast I would file a lawsuit. So I will stay on this story, but it is absolutely insane. Someone's joking about the Harris-Walz hat. That must have sold 0 times. Yeah. I've never seen anyone wear it. It's crazy. Really, the world we live in, it's horrible. But I do have a parenting hack at the end of the show that will maybe help. Maybe we'll get less of the hyper violent leftists and we'll get some more conservative children, which it seems to be going in that trend anyway. So that's just a little tease. But I want to talk to you first about Target. Target, as you know, they're extremely woke, and Target executives are now running to meet with Al Sharpton after woke groups have threatened, yet again, another boycott, this time over their DEI rollback. So once President Trump came into office, Target made this declaration that they're going to do away with the diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense. Target also said that they were going to trash the program that focused on carrying Black and minority-owned businesses and products. They also were going to scale back the Pride collections, all the gay, queer bathing suits, the tuck-friendly bathing suits that they were putting in the kids sections of Target. Yeah, so that received a lot of backlash, and now they're going that obviously hurt their sales because parents were snatching their pocketbooks back up saying, I'm not giving my money to a company that hates my kid and wants to trans my kid. So, of course, the right is boycotting Target. Then they've got to do away with DEI to make the leftists happy. Now or make the right happy. Now the left is pissed off because they did away with DEI. So now they're threatening more boycotts. And to fix this, Reverend Al Sharpton, he came out on CNBC and he said, you can't have an election come and all of a sudden you change your old positions. If an election determines your commitment to fairness, then fine. You have a right to withdraw from us, but then we have a right to withdraw from you. Well, because Reverend Al Sharpton, the left loves him. He's like a voice of reason on the left. So if Reverend Al Sharpton is saying, we have a right to not buy from Target, that's not so good for Target because they already pissed off the conservatives. Now they pissed off the left. Target can't afford another boycott. They can't afford to piss everyone off. So Target CEO Brian Cornell is set to go meet with Al Sharpton in New York this week. This is why you don't give in to cancel culture. People who are threatening boycotts on either side. I mean, I do not like cancel culture. I do not like boycotts. Nike hates me, Adidas hates me, everyone hates me. I still wear Nike sneakers to the gym because I don't know. It's not like Nike's going to go under because I pull my money out. This is my view on it. I don't participate in boycotts. I understand why others do. And you have every right to not give your money, your hard-earned money, to companies who hate you. I completely support that. But with Target, there's a threat from a boycott on this side. There's a threat from a boycott on this side. What Target should stop doing is selling clothes to either side. Stop selling clothes for the left. Stop selling clothes or items for the right. Just sell to everyone. You're Target. You're Target. You have everything. You sell everything. You sell makeup. Everyone wears makeup. You sell bathing suits. Everyone wears bathing suits, flip-flops, whatever. They probably should focus on selling flip-flops because that's what they do best. But sell to everyone. Why alienate your customer base at all? I mean, why sell anything political? Why sell Black Lives Matter stuff? Why sell LGBTQ stuff? Just sell stuff that Americans are going to buy. And don't get into the race war. Don't get into the culture war. You don't have to. But of course, when the left sees that a company, their favorite store is not buying into the leftist lunacy or the thing of the week that they're upset about, Target didn't make a statement about this, therefore we're going to boycott them. So they're so afraid of cancel culture and it bites them in the butt every single time. It's just stupid. All right, we're getting into my favorite part of the show, and that is scrolling time. Oh, come on. My friends Vince and Guy, they're not in DC dancing with me today. It's fine. I'll just have to dance alone. Just like good old times. Anyway, we talked a lot on the show today about these crazy leftists and the Antifas of the world, the blue hairs and the purple hairs and the septum piercings. I think we're seeing a good trend where a lot of kids are, not young kids, of course, but older kids, teenagers, college students, they're kind of coming to their senses a little bit. Normally, it was the college kids that were all about the social justice warrior stuff and the virtue signaling, but we're seeing that they're kind of losers, and everyone on the right is tending to be like a lot cooler. But it is starting younger now. And I have 2 videos for you that are giving me hope for the future generations. Here's the first one.
Look, there's a chemtrail right there.
You sure are right. What is that?
A chemtrail.
You are correct.
You know what? I hope that this mother watches this show and she's one of the tinfoil hat scrollers, the homies. Because I know a lot of you in the chat, you are part of the tinfoil hat scrolling community, as am I. And I think it's good. I think it's good. I don't think that all vapor coming out of the back of an airplane is a chemtrail. However, we know that the government uses planes to spew stuff all over. West Nile virus, anytime there's something like that, they will just mass spray all this like mosquito repellent all over. We know that they do this stuff. Whenever there's a fire, they spew fire retardant all over. And, so we know that the government has the ability to do this. And we know that the government hates us. So what's stopping them from spraying stuff that'll kill us? I don't know. That's just me. But here's another patriotic parenting hack. Never let your toddler know your next move.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming?
she's totally patriotic. All you have to do to get your kid to stop crying and screaming is start singing the national anthem. This is how you raise the next generation of patriots, okay? This is the life hack. Someone in the comments said, confuse the enemy. She really didn't know what was going on, but Chelsea said, see how she stops crying for the anthem? Very demure, very patriotic. Coco commented, she was just overwhelmed by patriotism. Valerie commented, she's like, I'm mad, but I'm not disrespectful. I will stop crying for that. Sarah Brett said, homegirl knew she needed to take a moment of silence. Everyone in the chat is loving it. Good singing. That was awesome. Sound of freedom. Can we get a sound of freedom in the chat? Love it. On that note, I'm starting off with the good stuff. Now we're going to go. I found this video of a brother-sister duo, and one is in corporate America, one lives off the grid in Hawaii. Watch this.
It's very interesting how two parents can have vastly different children. I work in corporate America. My 26-year-old sister lives in an off-grid shed on a farm in Maui.
Us chose not to sell our soul to excel every day. MTV Cribs, welcome to my crib.
It is a cool little shack she's got there in Hawaii.
Welcome to my kitchen.
Very small.
Newest edition.
Kitchen outside. Living room outside. Okay. You'll see this is a very long video, but we'll let it play out. She's got a very small bedroom, and she's certainly not living in luxury. She's showing her outdoor shower right now that she says isn't hot on most days. So this woman is really living off of the grid, right? And I would say this is a very peaceful life. When I saw this video, I thought, good for her. I wouldn't do this because obviously, I've got my hair extensions, my makeup. I need hot water in my shower. So this would not be the lifestyle for me, but I can appreciate it. And someone in the comments, leftist in the comments, they just get very angry, okay? Someone said, oh no, she didn't sell her soul. She's occupying native Hawaiian land where they're begging white folks to stop moving there, closer to corporate America than you think. Someone else commented, at what expense to native people? Jolene commented, I wish to see this for someone born and raised in Maui. Someone else commented, making gentrification cute again. Another comment, you have to be privileged to purposefully want to live like this. I grew up having to deal with these issues. Someone, true Canadian, commented, so basically she was blessed with wealth from her parents and doesn't have to live in the real world. Again, these people are miserable on the left. They can't just see someone. If she was really rich and living a lavish lifestyle, they would hate on her too. The fact that she's living off the grid and she's living this peaceful lifestyle and she's got her weird fruit, medicinal stuff going on in the jars. Just let people live their lives. But it's always like, oh, well, this is on native land and you have to apologize for this. Again, this is the cancel culture mindset. Get out of the cancel culture mindset. They're miserable and misery loves company. So everyone in the comment section piling on and bullying this girl because she's living their dream life probably, or maybe, not mine, but she's living a very peaceful life. I'll say that. Someone says, someone in the chat, maybe she identifies as Pacific Islander. And that is a great point. Great point. All she has to do is identify and the left has to accept it. I like it. Now, I was scrolling like this, scrolling so fast because I wanted to have a Holy Week TikTok for every day of the show this week. And I did find one, the Savannah Bananas. They're, what would you call them? Like an entertainment baseball team? Yeah. Not a real baseball team, but they dance and the umpire is shaking his booty. Very fun. But here's an inside look at their locker room where they praise the Lord. Watch this. It says, praising God, banana style. And all the guys, they're listening to worship music. I love to see this. Very sweet. I love this song. I just thought that was a really good way to end the week for Holy Week. If you didn't know, now you know. The Savannah Bananas, they praise the Lord in the locker room. So I thought that was sweet. And I just want to let you know that I didn't remind you yet on the show. I want to remind you to go to the Bongino Report channel, rumble.com/Hayley is where you can watch this show live. And then if you don't want to watch live, that's okay. You can watch it whenever you want, and you could take it on the go on your favorite podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your shows. Leave a 5-star review. Say something nice about me, of course. And I want to say you can follow me on social media at Hayley Carania on all platforms. I also want to tease a very special show tomorrow. So tomorrow, I have sat down with Brittany Burnett. She's a mom of 2. She is 34 years old, and her bones are dying. You heard that right. Her bones are dying. She was diagnosed with a horrific bone disorder, and now her doctors are saying it might possibly be because of the COVID-19 vaccine. So she joins me tomorrow night. It is an interview you do not want to miss. So I hope that you'll tune in for that. In the meantime, follow me on social media, and I will see you right back here tomorrow.